Hey guys, so today what we're doing is we're adding and subtracting decimal numbers. Now this is a topic that you guys would have all seen, except there's only one difference from primary, okay, and that's that there's a decimal point that's going to be in our algorithm. So let's have a look at some of the stuff that you're going to see today. So adding and subtracting decimals, and we're using an algorithm to set out your work, okay? So the first question you might have is, what is an algorithm? Okay, what is an algorithm? And it's a word that we're going to use a little bit, and you probably heard me use it at some point last term. So our learning goals for today is, during this lesson we're going to learn how to add and subtract decimals. You would have done this in previous years. Okay, the key here is to set out your work properly. Okay, that's the most common mistake that causes errors in this topic. So there's three things that we need to go through. So we need to understand what an algorithm is. And number two, we need to ensure that our decimal points are always in a line. And then step three, we need to understand that the first number of a subtraction must always go on top of the algorithm. So your first question here might be, well, what is an algorithm? Okay, what is an algorithm? That's the first thing that we're looking at. An algorithm simply is a way that we set out mathematical working, okay? It makes it easier for us to solve a problem. So what I mean by an algorithm is basically, if I've got 24 times 3, the way that I've set this out, that's called an algorithm, okay? If I've got a division and it's 969 divided by 3, that there is an algorithm, okay? If I've got an addition, 347 plus 43 plus 6, okay, that there is an algorithm. So an algorithm is basically just a way that we set out our working. There's nothing really that complicated to it at all. So how do we set out these questions when we're doing addition and subtraction? Now, the most important thing is, when we solve an addition and subtraction, we must make sure that our decimal points are lined up. So this here is the most important thing in this topic, making sure that our decimal points are all in a straight line in this algorithm, okay? So if I was doing 1.25 plus 11.2, I would just make sure that my decimal points are all in a straight line. Now, when you first write this, it would look something like this, okay? And there are some spaces here that have blanks in them. Now, you can always add in zeros in the places that are empty. So if you find this off-putting, or if you find it confusing, just add in zeros, okay? There is nothing wrong with doing that, okay? Now, when we're solving subtraction, there's just one extra rule that we also must follow. So the very first number in our question that appears, it has to go on top of the algorithm, okay? In addition, it doesn't matter which way they go on top, or which one goes on top. But with subtraction, the first one that appears in our question has to go on top, because what we're doing is we're taking this number away from that number. And if we swap them, what we would be doing then is we'd be taking the second number away from the first number. And that is not what we're trying to do. So once again, with this one, I needed to add in a 0, okay? And I'm just going to quickly run through this, okay? And I've made a mistake here, because that's where that decimal point should be, not there. But I'm going to quickly run through this, because we need to talk about borrowing and making sure that you guys are up to speed with your borrowing. So when we do an algorithm, I look at this and I do 0 take away 8. Now I can't do 0 take away 8. So I need to borrow from the column that is to the left of my 0, which at the moment is a 5. So I cross out my 5 and I replace it with a 4. And then that 1 that I borrowed goes next to the 0 to make 10. Now I can do it. So I can do 10 take 8, and 10 take 8 gives me 2, okay? And here, once again, I'm doing 4 take away 9. Well, I can't do that. So I need to borrow from my 7, which becomes a 6, and my 4 becomes a 14. So 14 take away 9 gives me 5, okay? And then 6 take 2 gives me 4, okay? And then 1 take 0 gives me 1. Okay, so my answer there would be 1.452. So a few little reminders just before we start getting into these questions. So the most common mistake that I would find with these is, number one, if these decimal points are not lined up, but also this is a common mistake that occurs, and it's identifying the question as addition or subtraction. Okay, so often I'll see somebody put in the wrong operation symbol, so just make sure that you're doing the right operation. Okay, the next one is to set out the question with the decimals in a line, which we've spoken about already at length, and then borrow where needed. So let's just quickly go through this one again. I'm going to add in a 0 here, okay, because it just makes it a little bit easier for me. So 3 take away 0 gives me 3. 4 take away 8 I cannot do, so I need to borrow here, okay. 14 take away 8 leaves me with 6. 0 takes 7, once again I cannot do that, so I need to borrow, and my 0 becomes a 10. So 10 take away 7 then gives me 3, and my decimal point comes down in that straight line, and 2 take away 1 gives me 1. Okay guys, so I'm going to get you guys to do some practice questions now. So the first lot of questions that I'm going to get you to do are addition. Now I want you to make sure on your piece of paper that's there next to you to set these out properly. So your first one would look something like this, okay? And if you need to put in zeros, put in those zeros, and then do it, do the question, have a go at it, okay? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to go through each of these questions, and then we will go through the answers. Good luck. Okay guys, answer time, so let's quickly go through these additions. Now I'm going to write out the algorithm and I'm going to quickly go through them. So this first one here, addition's super simple. I really like addition. It's a lot quicker than subtraction. Okay, so the next one I need to set this out as properly, and look at what I just did. I just made a copying error, okay? I put in 0.52 instead of 0.052. Okay, so always make sure that you're double checking. That's a classic thing that you should be checking in an exam. Okay, so at the end of the exam, go through and make sure you've copied out all your questions correctly. So I've got 2 there, I've got 8 there, 2 there, and a 0 there. Okay, so my answer is 0.282. My next one, I'm running out of space here, 1995 Goodyear 95, plus 100, 123.2. I'm going to add in a few zeros to make it easier, and I've got a 5 and a 9, and then here I've got an 11, so I need to carry the 1 to give me 5, and then 2 and 1. So my answer there is 125.195. Okay, next one here, there's a lot of decimal places in this one. Okay, a lot of decimal places. So 2, I can add in my zeros there if I want to. I've got a 4, a 2, a 2, an 11, my decimal point, and a 3. So my answer there is 3.11224. Okay, so there are our answers for those ones. Okay guys, time to do some subtraction. So set these out properly. Always make sure that first number, okay, is at the top of your algorithm, and we will go through the answers in around about 2 minutes. Good luck. Okay, answer time. So I've set out my algorithms here, and I've put in my zeros, so I'm all ready to go. So here we go. 8 take away 0 gives me 8. 7 take 3 gives me 4. 3 take 2 gives me 1. My decimal point stays in the same spot, and 2 take 1 is 1. So my first one here is 1.148. Now, if I make a mistake, please let me know, and so I can come back and edit these. So 9 take away 0 is 9, 7 take away 0 is 7, 2 take 4 I cannot do, so I need to borrow, and I have 12 take 4, which gives me 8, and then 0 take 0, which is 0, and then I add in my decimal point, okay, and I've got my answer, 0.0879, okay, number 3 here. 9 take away 3 gives me 6, 7 take 2 gives me 5, 8 take 1 gives me 7, my decimal point goes in, 6 take 3 is 3, okay, so it becomes 3.756, alright, and my last one here is 0.5 take away 0.004. So with this one here, I actually need to do a fair bit of borrowing, so I need to cross out my 4, and then this becomes a 10, then I need to borrow from my 10, and then this becomes a 10 here at the end. Okay, so 10 take 4 gives me 6, and then I have a 9 and a 4 there with my decimal. Okay, so they are the answers for those ones there. Hopefully you understand how to subtract your fractions. Hopefully you've understood this topic pretty well, and you can move on to some of the questions in the text. Good luck.